How's it going, everybody? It's your world champion here with a new video series I wanted to start trying out. Um, so one thing I like to do is to kind of go back and rewatch anime that I kind of grew up with, that I already know pretty well. Just kind of rewatch them, as I'm going to sleep or what have you, or doing chores around the house, anything like that. So I decided, why not kind of still watch them a little bit, kind of like how I am, and because you always pick up on new things as you rewatch a series. So I thought, why not kind of bring that into like a topic discussion for some videos on YouTube. And here we are with the first arc review. Right now I'm currently in my rewatch of Naruto. I've already finished part one. I finished that like a year ago. Actually, a year ago about is when I finished that. Um, Actually, no, it's been 2 years. Sorry, I'm rambling right now. And I'm finally getting back to continuing that series again in my rewatch. Because I'm also finishing my collection of DVDs for it. So yeah, I'm gonna be starting the series with Naruto Shippuden. Maybe one day in the future I'll get back to Naruto and do that. And I've also kind of thought about, I've been tossing around the idea of like adding seasonal anime to this. So like shows that I might have to binge watch to catch up to, like, ReZero, Haikyuu, things like that. I might do season recaps of those just to kind of talk to them a little bit, get my thoughts out there of everything. Now the way I want this to go, I'm going to start by, just giving a quick synopsis of that season or that arc. Very, very brief on what went down in the arc. And then I'm going to start with 5 things I didn't like in the arc. Figured get the negative stuff out of the way, especially if it's an arc that I really didn't like. And then end it with 5 things I did like about that arc. And then giving an overall grade for the arc at the end of the video. And yeah, we'll just kind of go into that. This might be a weekly video or like bi-weekly video series. But yeah, it's something I kind of wanted to start doing. And I just finished the first arc of Naruto Shippuden, which is the Gaara Retrieval Arc, or the Kazekage Retrieval Arc, whatever you want to call it. I like to think of it as the Gaara Retrieval Arc. So basically, quick synopsis of this. So, depending on which version you read or watch or anything, but roughly about 3 years have passed since Naruto left to train with Jiraiya to get stronger and able to fight the Akatsuki better than he could before the time skip. So Naruto's returning to the village. We see everybody after the time skip. Well, not everybody yet, but we see most of the main players after the time skip here. Naruto and Sakura test their skills out against Kakashi again. All of a sudden, 2 members of the Akatsuki go into the Sand Village, kidnap Gaara, and take the one-tailed Shukaku out of him. And that inevitably kills Gaara. So Team Kakashi's out to go to the Sand Village. Later on, Team Guy also joins them in that fray. They fight the Akatsuki, they get Gaara back. They revive Gaara with the help of an old lady from the Sand Village called Lady Chio. And Gaara returns, and yeah, that's pretty much the arc right there. So 5 things I didn't like in this arc. First of all, so I started watching Shippuden because, okay, so I watched Naruto when it first came out on Toonami, obviously, and then I caught up with the manga after that because I heard it was just filler after that. So I didn't watch any of the Naruto filler before Shippuden started, but I was so excited for Shippuden. I think, when was it? I think it was around the time. Yes, I caught up when they were on the when they met up with Orochimaru, when Naruto entered the Four-Tail state. That's when I caught up to the manga. So I think Shippuden was just about to come out around that time. So it was very, very fresh in my mind what was going on. But one of the things I didn't like in this arc is the pacing. The pacing of the anime arc is bad. let me put it to you this way. The arc is about 33 episodes, 32, 33 episodes long. And yes, I understand a lot kind of goes on, but that's 32 to 33 episodes long. Like, that's almost 3 of my box sets that I have. Two full box sets, and I think the first, like, 2.5 discs actually, of, no, 1.5 discs, excuse me, of the third box set. So that's almost, yeah, that's about 33 episodes of the series. So watching it weekly kind of sucked. Watching it in a binge watch was fine. So that's basically what this arc was made for, was for binge watching. But my god, is the pacing slow. Like, this took me a while to get through, and usually it does when I'm rewatching this series, excuse me for that. This takes me a while to get through because of its slow pacing, and that's one thing that I just don't like from this arc. But yeah, the other thing I don't like, so a lot of the other stuff is going to be nitpicks. Just very nitpicky things that just made me go, eh. One of them is the Team Guy versus Team Guy fight. So we have Team Guy that comes up, and you're so excited because, you have Guy Sensei, obviously. You have Neji, who just became a Jonin, you find out. Tenten, who barely did anything in part 1, so you're just like, oh, great, she's gonna do something. And a revitalized Rock Lee. So you're just like, great, Team Guy's gonna get in there, we're gonna see some awesome stuff. No, they fight themselves, because there's this 5 sealed barrier that they have to get rid of. So Team Guy decides that they're going to be the ones to pull off 4 of the seals, as Kakashi pulls off the 5th one at the entrance to the Akatsuki's hideout. And Team Guy just fights themselves. And in the manga, it's not too bad because you don't see too much of it. But this kind of ties into that slow pacing I was talking about. Like, we do get a whole episode of Team Guy against themselves. But I don't know, it's one of those things where it's just like, this is a neat idea on paper, but in execution, you guys botched it, because this could have been way more. We could have seen more of Neji using his Byakugan and his gentle fist style. We could have seen more of Rock Lee and Guy Sensei possibly opening up the gates more. And then Tenten, I mean, well, sorry, I'm not a 10-10 person, so she's kind of lame in my eyes. Yeah. So that's the second thing I didn't like, was Team Guy versus Team Guy. It was just, again, slow pace, boring. And that's the sad part, because we saw Guy Sensei versus Kisame earlier in that arc, which was decent. That was like a nice little appetizer of what they could do. But they were like holding back, and that something was up. So when we get the reveal that, it was like this puppeteer jutsu thing with these people, that makes sense why it wasn't a balls to the wall fight. And I think it was like, what, 1/3 of his chakra that the guy used. Yeah, so that fight was Team Guy versus Team Guy now. Next, so we have two scenes of Team Kakashi running with Lady Chiyo. And they're talking about things like, that's where we get the Jinchuriki reveal, the Tailed Beast reveal. Chiyo finds out why Naruto cares so much about Gaara. All that stuff. So we get a lot of exposition, but that's the problem. It's exposition. And it's just there. I don't know, I feel like the scenes were there to be there. I understand why they were there, but all these nitpicks I'm saying kind of go into that slow pacing I was talking about. So it's just boring. Like this is why this first arc always takes me forever to get through, because yeah, there's cool things that happen to it, which I'll get to in a little bit, but like these other things just kind of slow it down and just make it so boring, you know? And I understand that this helps, with Chio's character, especially what happens later on in the arc. I don't know, it was just, in the anime, it's just boring, because they do it twice. It's not just like one running sequence. It is, no, it's basically the same sequence, but happening twice. It's just like, why couldn't it just be in the same, like, running sequence? It happens before they meet Itachi, and then after they meet Itachi. I don't know. But enough of those things. Two other things that I didn't like in this arc. And these, again, all these for my dislikes are very nitpicky. But the one thing I didn't like is the location and distances. They were a little iffy. So you have this fight. So Sasori is fighting Chio and Sakura, and then Naruto and Kakashi are chasing after Deidara, and they're chasing him down this gorge. Now, how long the fight takes and how far they are doesn't make sense, because they're showing things that happen like in the meantime. Oh, this is happening now, this is happening then, all that stuff. But and see, this is what I like about some series like One Piece that has like maps before the anime, to be like, okay, here's where everybody is, here's what everybody's doing. And here we just can't see that, because we just get the same backgrounds over and over again. So we have Naruto and Kakashi just chasing Deidara. So unless they were like in a circle, which I don't think they were, because I think the gorge just went straight. It wasn't a circle. So they were like way far. They were way far. So they're chasing Deidara, and then finally Kakashi's just like, here, let me charge up my Mangekyo Sharingan that I have and try to get Deidara from long range. Like, I don't know, it just took me out of it. And then, it takes 3 days to get to the Sand Village. Okay. Team Guy was going to the Sand Village. And then, so 3 days had already passed. So unless, like, immediately they were sent out, it should have been like 2.5 days or something before they were even met. At the Akatsuki base. So yeah, just excuse me, my notes. My iPad was at low battery, so I had to click close on that. Yeah, so I mean, that the locations and distances were just a little weird for me, but again, that's very nitpicky. The last thing, which is kind of funny if you think about it, but again, it's another nitpick. So, the Sand Village. They didn't have a Kazekage between the one that Orochimaru killed, and Gaara. So did they just have like the elders and this council run the village? Did they go 3 years without a Kazekage or a standing Kazekage? Like, what? You're a hidden village. You're telling me that you freak out when your Kazekage is gone, but you spend 3 years not having a Kazekage? Unless they immediately brought Gaara into being a Kazekage, which I doubt heavily. Because Gaara wanted to be part of the ranks. He wanted to move up in the ranks, be a normal shinobi, and rise up to become Kazekage. So it's not the fact that Gaara became Kazekage in 3 years. That's not it. It's the fact that the Sand Village went 3 years without one, and they didn't get attacked by another village? Bruh. What did they do? Did they lie to other villages saying, oh yeah, our Kazekage is doing fine? he's right here. See, look. And they just have like this like marionette wearing the Kazekage uniform or something. I mean, what did they do? What did they do in those 3 years without a Kazekage? Again, that's a nitpick. A lot of these things this arc were nitpicks. Now 5 things that I really liked in this arc. So now we're in the positive part. And one, since we're talking about Gaara and his growth, that's actually one of the things I liked. Because we see a scene where Gaara is talking to Kankuro, and he's saying, I think it's right after they got back to the Sand Village after the Chunin exam, and Gaara's saying, you know, how much fighting Naruto changed him, and how he wants to move up in the ranks and connect more with the people of the Sand Village, so that one day he can become Kazekage. He can lead them into a new like way of living, and that's shown mainly through his fight with Deidara, where he protected the village from Deidara's, I think it was a C4 bomb. It was the big one that he sent down to attack the village, pretty much. But yeah, Gaara sacrificed himself for his village, and not only that, but we have this huge group of people coming to find Gaara. Not just Temari and Kankuro. It's a lot of ninja going to find Gaara, freaking out, loving that he's alive, all that stuff. And even when he gets back to the village, the entire village is out there waiting for him and saying, you can go in first. We follow your lead because you are the Kazekage. So Gaara worked so hard in those 3 years to become Kazekage. And when he needed them the most, they were all there for him. And that shows great dividends on his part. And of course, we end it with him and Naruto shaking hands. I remember all the theories back in the day when you see like that sand whirl up on Naruto's hand, being like, Gaara didn't lose his sand powers. He can still control sand. Yay! And yeah, he can still control sand. You know? Even without the Shukaku's power, he's pretty good. But so that's one thing. That's actually one of the biggest highlights in this arc is Gaara's growth. But speaking of growth, we have Naruto and Sakura facing Kakashi. That's something I wanted to highlight in this video, because not a lot of people kind of talk about this. So Naruto and Sakura versus Kakashi, you know, take the bells from me by morning, blah blah blah. So they go through the whole thing just like when they were training, you know. Oh, part 1 taijutsu, part 2 ninjutsu, part 3 genjutsu. That whole thing, kind of hitting the nostalgia button, all that. So Naruto and Sakura obviously grew, you know. Naruto using his Shadow Clones a lot better, using his Rasengan against Kakashi. Sakura having that monstrous Tsunade-like strength also took Kakashi by surprise. I mean, he's also using his Sharingan in this. But the one thing that people always sleep on this, because it's not like an all-out brawl, and they don't win by actually defeating Kakashi, like fisticuffs beating him. They beat him by being smarter than him, which is very hard to do against Kakashi. Because if Kakashi was smart enough, he'd know that Naruto didn't know the ending to this book. So when Naruto returns, he gives Jiraiya's new book, Make Out Tactics, I think it is. He gives Jiraiya's new book to Kakashi as a present, saying, hey, here's a gift from Jiraiya. I think you'll like it, blah, blah, blah. And so Kakashi's just so fixated on this book and finishing it that he doesn't realize that Naruto's too young to be reading this book. So the way Naruto and Sakura beat Kakashi, if you haven't seen it yet, they're falling from, you know, doing a direct attack to Kakashi, and Naruto's saying, you know, trying to spoil the book for him, saying the big twist in that book. And so Kakashi closes his ears, but because of his Sharingan, he can still see his lips move and can read his lips and knows what he's saying. So he closes his eyes And then that's how they get the bells, and that's how they defeat Kakashi. So that's something I wanted to highlight right there, because not a lot of people talk about it as a big moment, but it is kind of a big moment because Naruto came up with the idea, and Naruto's an idiot, you know. So for him to come up with this idea, again, kind of like what Sakura said when he said the idea, you really are the #1 knuckleheaded ninja, which I hated that so much. The #1 hyperactive knucklehead ninja. I hated that. Anyways, this isn't about hate. This is about positivity. Positivity. And speaking of which, the beginning of this arc, the return of the Hidden Leaf Village. That's my third thing that I really liked about this arc. Yeah, I mean, what else is there to say? You know, I can't even talk right now. Unlike a lot of people, I didn't go through the 1.5 years, almost 2 years of filler through the anime, and obviously the manga kept going too. But I didn't go through all that, so I didn't get fatigue from the filler and all that. But even still, seeing these characters after the time skip, seeing Naruto and how much he's grown, seeing Konohamaru and his group and how much they've grown, Sakura, how much she grew, Shikamaru, Tamari, Gaara, just all those characters. We don't see Ino, Choji, and all of them until the next arc. But still, like, just seeing these characters right now and how they've grown is huge, because they're more grown up now. They're not little kids anymore. They've been through some shit. Literally. And plus, we even get to see Sasuke, who doesn't even technically come back until the arc after this, because we get that teaser in the first episode, which I love, by the way. But we even get to see his new design, and that's just so badass. And then you see this other kid, and you're just like, who the fuck is that kid? And then you see this other guy, and you're just like, who the fuck is that guy? Like, seeing everybody's growth was awesome. And then hearing that everybody are tuning, and that Neji, Tamari, and Kankura are joning. That's cool, because that shows growth. That shows development on them, that they weren't just sleeping, that they're not all just getting besides Naruto. They actually achieved more in those 3 years. And so that's just nice. That's like hearing from an old friend and seeing that they're doing well in life. That's awesome. Now obviously the next two are obvious big moments in this arc. One I'll talk about very briefly is Sakura and Chiyo versus Sasori. This is Sakura's moment here. It's also Chiyo's moment, because Sasori is her grandkid. So obviously she's having a moment with him. But just the way those two had such good teamwork, for barely knowing each other, for barely being even the same age, you know, because you have Lady Chiyo who's like 80 something, and then Sakura who's 16, and they're cooperating so well. Like, even at a part, Chiyo is using Sakura as a puppet, just so they can get closer to Sasori and break his puppet. And then they break his puppet, and then he brings out the third Kazekage and break that puppet. And then it's 10 versus 100, you know, that puppet fight. And then Sasori's his own puppet. Like, that fight was very cool. And it's sad that that's like one of Sakura's biggest moments, besides pissing everybody off in a later arc, which we will get to one day. Oh, I can't wait for that day. Again, this is positive time. Very, very, very positive time. This was a great fight. This was a great moment, because Sasori also dies. And we also see that Sakura was smart enough to make some more antidotes for their fight against Sasori. So it shows more of her feminine wiles. But yeah, good fight. I won't talk about it too much more, because everybody talks about it from this arc. But the last thing I'll say that I liked about this arc was Chiyo's death and sacrifice. So, in past rewatches and rereads of this arc, like, I've never really felt much towards Chiyo and towards this part, but for some reason, this part, and it started with Naruto just crying and just teary-eyed and all that. Like, I felt more this time than I ever did. Like, the anime did such a good job of portraying Naruto's sadness and depression when Gaara, like, after they have retrieved Gaara's body and after Deidara and Sasori are gone, like, Naruto's depression that he just feels and heartbreak, it kind of got to me. And then you just see Chiyo, after already using this technique once on Sakura, she goes over to Gaara and uses it for a final time. And Naruto even uses some of his chakra to give to her as well, reviving Gaara. And knowing that, you know, it was all because of Naruto. Because he has that power to become friends with anybody he meets. And change people's lives and change people's hearts. Because they even say that Chiyo wasn't that kind of lady. She wasn't that kind of person. She wasn't someone to sacrifice herself for the next generation. Or even take assistance from somebody from another village. She was very stubborn. She was very kind of a pissy old lady. But she ended up sacrificing herself. And then the moment where they bring Gaara back to the village, and everyone's just like, alright, clear a path for Lord Kazekage. And they're letting him go first. He says, no, let her go first. And they're carrying her dead body, like, on a stretcher, you know, in a body bag. And they let Chiyo enter. They let Chiyo enter the village first. That got to me, too. I was like, man, never have I ever felt like that during that part. And yet here we were, with tears in my eyes. It wasn't like streaming or whatever, but I think maybe one went down or something. But I was like, man, they did a really good job with this, you know? And I was actually really happy with that. So those are 5 things I didn't like, 5 things I did like about the arc. Overall, this was a decent arc. I gave it a B+. Nothing that was really terrible in it. Again, most of my dislikes from the arc are mainly nitpicks, but the biggest thing was the pacing. The pacing of everything was just so slow. It just brought the arc down for me. But overall, the emotion that the arc had, the fights that were in the arc, some of the other moments that I didn't even talk about were pretty good in this arc. And yeah, I really enjoyed rewatching this. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the Gaara Retrieval Arc. If you thought it was more than a B+, less than a B+, whatever have you. Let me know down in the comments. And let me know down in the comments too what you think of this series. I mean, I might tweak it a little bit. See how everything goes with it. But this is fun. I think next week I should be ready to do the arc after this, which is the where they meet Orochimaru again. So yeah, if I entertain you in any way, shape, or form, be sure to like the video. And also, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of these arc reviews and any more of my wonderful, beautiful, awesome content. So as always, people, I've been your world champion. I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya.